On the 17th of June 1631, Mumtaz Mahal, the Empress Consort of the Mughal Empire, died. Her husband, Shah Jahan, ruled over a powerful empire that stretched across much of northern India and modern-day Pakistan. Following the death of his beloved wife, he put the vast resources of his empire to work, constructing an immense tomb to honor her memory, the Taj Mahal. Who was this powerful Shah? And how did he manage to have this incredible mausoleum built in just over 20 years? This is the story of Shah Jahan, builder of the Taj Mahal. The man known to history as Shah Jahan was born on the 5th of January 1592 in Lahore, in present-day Pakistan, then the northern capital of the Mughal Empire. He was given the name Khurram, meaning joyous in Persian, by his grandfather, Emperor Akbar, who ruled for almost half a century, from 1556 to his death in 1605. Prince Khurram's father was Prince Salim, the third son of Emperor Akbar and his senior wife, Mariam-uz-Zummani Begum. Since his elder brothers had died in infancy, when Akbar died in 1605, Salim would take the throne as Emperor Jahangir. While Jahangir could be a conscientious ruler and had wide-ranging interests in science, religion, and philosophy, he was an unpredictable character, prone to drunkenness and violence. Mughal princes had several wives, and by the time of Khurram's birth, Salim already had two sons, Khusrau and Pervez. Prince Khurram's mother, Manavati Jogat Gosain, was a Hindu princess from Jodhpur who married the 16-year-old Salim in January 1586, when she was around 13 years old. While she was given the title Jogat Gosain, or Saint of the World, she was commonly known at court as Jodhbai, or Lady from Jodhpur. She would bear Salim two daughters and a son between 1590 and 1597, though both daughters died in infancy. Her position in the harem waned by the beginning of the 17th century, as she was superseded by Jahangir's other wives. After her death in 1619, she was given the posthumous title of Bilkis Makani, meaning Lady of the Pure Abode. At the time of Prince Khurram's birth, his family had ruled northern India for over half a century. The Mughal Empire was founded in 1526 by his great-great-grandfather Babur, a Central Asian prince who claimed descent on his mother's side from Genghis Khan, and on his father's side from Timur the Lame, better known as Tamerlane, the ruler of a vast empire that stretched from Syria to the Himalayas in the late 14th century. After being driven from his ancestral lands by the Uzbeks, Babur conquered Kabul in what is now Afghanistan in 1504. Over time, he set his sights on India and sent his armies over the Khyber Pass to take control of the Punjab. In 1524, he launched a campaign against the weakened Sultanate of Delhi and dealt it a fatal blow at the Battle of Panipat in 1526. Babur's realm came to be known as the Mughal Empire, a corruption of the word Mongol, and he continued to expand the empire until his death in 1530. He was succeeded by his son Humayun, who was overthrown in a rebellion in 1540, but managed to reclaim his throne with Persian support in 1555. Humayun's death the following year led to the accession of the teenage Akbar, the first of the great Mughal emperors. During his long reign, Akbar consolidated Mughal control of northern India from Agra, where he moved his capital in 1558 as a central location to govern the empire. Although the Mughal rulers were themselves Sunni Muslims, Akbar pursued a policy of religious tolerance that embraced different Muslim groups as well as other religious communities in India, including Hindus, Zoroastrians, Sikhs, Jews, and Catholics. Mughal princes frequently married Hindu wives to maintain political alliances, meaning that Akbar was the only Muslim among Khurram's grandparents. After Prince Khurram was born, he was taken away from his mother and brought up by Ruqayya Sultan Begum, one of Emperor Akbar's childless consorts. Lady Ruqayya was devoted to Khurram and brought him up as if he were her own son. Akbar's decision to bring the young prince up within his own household was an indication that he had concerns about Salim's suitability for the throne and was seeking to groom a successor from the next generation. According to tradition, the young prince began receiving his education in May 1596, when he was 4 years, 4 months, and 4 days old. Khurram's education was initially supervised by Qasim Beg, a Persian scholar and poet from Tabriz. Qasim's successor was Hakim Ali, a doctor from Gilani in western Persia, who, in addition to acting as Akbar's personal physician, was also a distinguished mathematician and architect. Hakim was a close friend of Crown Prince Salim, and thus enjoyed the confidence of both his student's grandfather and father. While Persian language and literature formed the core of Prince Khurram's studies, he also had lessons in the family's ancestral Turkic language, as well as astronomy, arithmetic, medicine, religion, and history. Outside the classroom, he received military training from officers at court, beginning with archery lessons at the age of 5 and using firearms from the age of 8. The prince also familiarized himself with elephants, the majestic animals that were prized by the royal family and mounted during ceremonial occasions and on the battlefield in India. In 1598, when Khurram was 6 years old, his father, Prince Salim, intended to take him on campaign against the stubbornly independent kingdom of Mewar in Rajasthan, along the modern-day Indian-Pakistan border. The emperor refused and instead took the boy on his own military campaign against the sultanates of Ahmadnagar, Bijapur, and Golconda in the Deccan Plateau, which covers the southern half of India. Hostilities had begun in 1593, but the incompetent leadership of Akbar's younger sons, Murad and Danial, convinced the emperor to take personal command. In November 1598, Khurram accompanied his grandfather's army as it marched south from Lahore. During the journey, the boy fell ill with smallpox and was treated by his tutor, Hakim Ali, and an Egyptian doctor. The royal army then spent the best part of a year in Agra before continuing its onward progress. By the time Akbar arrived in March 1600, his son Murad had died as a result of heavy drinking. The emperor did not exhibit much sadness at Murad's demise, especially as his third son, Danial, had given up alcohol and showed signs of being more responsible. While Danial was on his way to resume military command, the Mughal armies had won a series of victories under the interim command of court historian and scholar Abu al-Fadl al-Alami, who unexpectedly proved to be a talented and dynamic military leader. With Prince Danial restored to favor, Prince Salim was convinced that his half-brother was going to be designated as Akbar's heir in his place. In August 1600, Salim abandoned his brutal war of pacification in the Mewar and rebelled against his father by seizing control of the fortress of Allahabad on the confluence of the Yamuna and Ganges rivers, now known by its Hindi name of Prayagraj. Akbar initially took little notice of Salim's rebellion and focused on his military objectives in the Deccan, conquering Ahmadnagar Fort in August. Over the course of the winter, as Salim assumed new titles and began minting his own coinage, Akbar belatedly recognized the gravity of the situation in the north. At the end of April 1601, the emperor abandoned his southern campaign and marched north to confront Salim with Khurram and Khusrau in tow. While Akbar was initially hesitant to take military action, he resolved to do so when Salim refused to back down. After Salim launched a failed offensive against Agra in 1602, the emperor placed Abu al-Fadl in command of an army to crush the rebellion. Salim responded to this threat by ordering Abu al-Fadl's assassination in August 1602. Akbar was distraught at his commander's murder, and the court remained in mourning for several days. In early 1603, Akbar and Salim finally reconciled after Prince Daniel resumed his excessive drinking and Salim was restored to the succession. This reconciliation proved to be short-lived. Salim quickly returned to Allahabad, but he gave up his rebellion in late 1604 after the death of Akbar's mother, Mariam Makhani. His prospects improved in March 1605 when Prince Daniel died of alcohol poisoning at the age of 32. However, Akbar remained uncertain about his surviving son and considered passing the throne to the 15-year-old Prince Khusrau instead. To settle the matter, he arranged a duel between elephants from the stables of Salim and Khusrau. The 13-year-old Prince Khurram sat next to his grandfather on the royal balcony to witness the contest between his father and half-brother's champion elephants. Salim's elephant Giramba quickly gained the upper hand and forced its adversary into the Yamuna River. At one point during the proceedings, Akbar sent Khurram down into the arena to break apart the elephants. Although the elephant duel had confirmed Salim's succession in Akbar's mind, the 63-year-old emperor was in poor health, and there was a lot of political scheming to try to thwart his decision. During the summer of 1605, Khurram remained at the side of his dying grandfather and was utterly loyal to his father, on whom his own political prospects depended. While Khusrau's supporters lobbied for his succession among elite courtiers, Salim sneaked into the imperial palace and made a demonstration of his loyalty to Akbar just before the emperor died in late October 1605. After presiding over the dead emperor's funeral rites, Salim ascended the throne a week later and adopted the name Jahangir, meaning conqueror of the world. Jahangir's close associates, who had recently joined him in rebellion at Allahabad, were now promoted to high office. Keen to dispel the image that he lacked his father's ability, Jahangir issued a series of edicts aiming to promote trade by protecting merchants, improve health by building new hospitals and banning alcohol, and defend the interests of rural communities against large landowners. He ensured the support of Akbar's faithful courtiers by promoting them and increasing their pay, including some who had been advocates for Khusrau's succession. However, despite his efforts to ban the production and distribution of alcohol, the emperor continued to drink heavily. This made him prone to mood swings and arbitrary judgments, even as he made an effort to appear as an impartial dispenser of justice by installing a physical chain of justice made of gold and bells leading from the imperial audience chamber to the courtyard below. In theory, anyone who pulled on the chain could communicate their grievances directly to the emperor. But, in reality, only high-ranking officials could gain access to the royal courtyard. After his father's accession, Prince Khurram continued his education and broadened his study of subjects including philosophy, art, religion, and warfare. Prince Khusrau, on the other hand, was kept under close supervision in effective captivity. Although he had lost most of his political backing, in early April 1606, Khusrau decided to rebel against his father and escaped from Agra Fort, heading for Lahore, where he hoped to establish his base. Although he picked up support along the way, Khusrau found the gates of Lahore barred to him and laid siege to the city. Jahangir responded promptly, dispatching an army which covered the 440 miles to Lahore in 17 days. The emperor followed his vast army and left the young Khurram as regent in Agra. In late April 1606, the Imperial army decisively defeated the rebellious prince, who soon fell into captivity. Khusrau was forced to witness the brutal executions of his generals and associates before having his eyes sewn shut and being sent to a windowless prison cell, an agonizing but theoretically reversible fate. After the rebellion was defeated, the 14-year-old Khurram rode to the city of his birth to join his father. The imperial household remained in Lahore over the winter, during which Jahangir considered which of his remaining 2 sons should be his heir. Jahangir initially seemed to favour his middle son, 17-year-old Pervez, but by the spring of 1607 he signalled his preference for Khurram by giving him the authority to authenticate imperial decrees. Khurram was also given the court rank of 8,000, which came with an obligation to finance 8,000 infantrymen for the army. Additionally, Khurram was allowed to have a scarlet silk curtain at the entrance of his tent, an honour otherwise reserved for the emperor himself. Jahangir remained in Lahore to supervise the successful defence of Kandahar from a Persian attack before moving on to Kabul in April. Shortly before the imperial party left for the hunting grounds in Kabul, Prince Khurram was betrothed to Arjumand Banu, the 13-year-old granddaughter of Ghiyas Beg, a Persian scholar who was patronized by the late Akbar and served as master of the royal household. Prince Khurram's marital prospects received a major setback in September 1607 after his private secretary informed him of a plot by Khusrau's associates to assassinate the emperor. Khurram immediately told his father of the scheme, and the emperor duly executed the 4 ringleaders. As one of Ghiyas Beg's sons were among the executed men, the master of the household was arrested and fined, and Khurram's impending marriage to Arjumand was no longer politically acceptable. A replacement bride was found for Khurram in late 1609 during negotiations between Jahangir and Shah Abbas of Persia. Hence, in December 1609, the 18-year-old Khurram married a Persian woman from Kandahar, distantly related to the royal family. She was not given an elaborate title usually bestowed upon royal brides, but was simply known in the Mughal court as Kandahari Begum, or Lady from Kandahar. While the marriage elevated Khurram's status at court, he was disappointed by his half-brother Pervez's appointment as commander-in-chief of the army in the Deccan, a posting Khurram had hoped to be given. Nevertheless, Khurram's position as heir seemed secure, and his presence in the capital allowed him to build up his personal treasury and cultivate a group of loyal supporters at court. Khurram's place in Jahangir's affections were further enhanced in January 1611 when he saved his father's life after the emperor was attacked by a lion during a hunting expedition. Khurram was rewarded 2 months later with promotion to the rank of 10,000, equal to that of his brother Pervez. In the summer of 1611, life at Jahangir's court was transformed by the emperor's marriage to Mir al-Nisa, a widowed daughter of Ghiyas Beg. Following the marriage, the 34-year-old bride assumed the title of Nur Mahal, or Light of the Palace. Better known by her later title Nur Jahan, or Light of the World, the new empress quickly became the driving force behind Jahangir's government through her father, now rehabilitated and appointed Grand Vizier, while her elder brother Abu al-Hassan, better known as Asaf Khan, was appointed chief steward. Although Mughal empresses had been known to exercise power and influence behind the scenes, Nur Jahan was an effective political operator who dominated the political stage through her relatives in high office. Nur Jahan was also keen to build an alliance with Crown Prince Khurram, and did so by reviving the betrothal between Khurram and her niece Arjumand, whose father was now chief steward. In May 1612, shortly after being promoted to the rank of 12,000, Khurram took Arjumand as his second wife in a magnificent ceremony. The crown prince was struck by his new wife's beauty and intellectual qualities, and after consultation with court elders, dignified her with the title of Mumtaz Mahal, or Most Exquisite of the Palace. Although Khurram already had a daughter with his first wife in August 1611 and would go on to contract a third marriage in 1617, Mumtaz almost exclusively shared Khurram's marital bed. The couple would have 14 children in 19 years of marriage, though over half died in infancy. While Khurram's star was in the ascendancy, he was still desperate to prove himself as a military leader, which was the mark of success or failure for any Mughal ruler. His opportunity came in 1613, when Jahangir resolved to deal with the kingdom of Mewar once and for all. Jahangir had already launched 4 campaigns against Mewar during his reign, but despite achieving varying degrees of success on the battlefield, Mewar survived. In the autumn of 1613, the emperor relocated his court to Ajmer as a base from which the Mughal army would attack the Mewari capital of Udaipur. Late in December of that year, the 21-year-old Khurram was given command of a force of 12,000 men to deal the final blow to Mewar. After securing the dismissal of the veteran general at the scene, who refused to obey Khurram's commands, the prince was in a position to appoint his loyal followers to subordinate commands and went on to lead an effective campaign against the enemy, constantly maneuvering against the Mewari army to gain strategic advantages. Khurram's men rampaged through the countryside in the summer of 1614 and prepared to attack Udaipur by the beginning of 1615. The Mewari ruler Maharana Amar Singh sued for peace and surrendered to Khurram in February. The Mughal prince was magnanimous in victory and became firm friends with the Maharana's son Karna Singh. When the victorious prince led the army into Ajmer in a triumphal procession, Jahangir breached protocol by personally embracing his son. Keen to savour his triumph, Jahangir showed no inclination to return to Agra, and any return to the capital was indefinitely postponed after an outbreak of plague reached the capital. A few weeks after Khurram's triumphal entry, he welcomed the birth of his first son. While Mumtaz Mahal had already given him 2 daughters, the newborn child strengthened Khurram's place in the succession and was given the name Darashikoh, or Glory of Darius, by Jahangir. Meanwhile, Khurram was promoted to the rank of 15,000. The court remained in Ajmer for Khurram's birthday celebrations in January 1616, when the prince steadfastly refused to drink the wine offered by his father, but was eventually compelled to do so. In July, he welcomed the birth of another son, Shah Shuja, which went some way to lessen the grief caused by the death of Khurram and Mumtaz's eldest daughter, Hur al-Nisa. At around this time, Jahangir announced his intention to transfer command of the Deccan front from Pervez to Khurram. Prince Pervez was unwilling to relinquish command to his younger brother and sought to stir up trouble by indicating that he would only give up command to the imprisoned Khusrau. While Pervez eventually backed down, Khurram was reminded that Khusrau's partisans might scheme against him while he was away from court and demanded custody of his elder half-brother. Although reluctant to give up his prisoner, Jahangir succumbed to pressure from Nur Jahan, and Khurram's father-in-law, Chief Steward Asaf Khan, assumed responsibility for Khusrau. As Khurram prepared to depart in November 1615, Jahangir awarded his son the Persian title of Shah or King, so that the prince became known as Shah Sultan Khurram. While an elevation in Khurram's status, this was deliberately designed as a snub to Shah Abbas of Persia, indicating that he was only the equal of a Mughal crown prince. Khurram's task in the south had been made easier after a Mughal army under Shahnawaz Khan defeated Ahmadnagar's de facto ruler Malik Ambar in February 1616. However, Ambar's allies from neighbouring Bijapur helped to defeat many Mughal garrisons. Following his arrival in early 1617, Khurram entered into negotiations with Bijapur, enabling him to recapture Ahmadnagar Fort in July and force Ambar to submit to Mughal rule. Following his victory, in September 1617, Shah Khurram married his third wife, Is al-Nisa Begum, the daughter of Shahnawaz Khan. Khurram then led 25,000 cavalry on a triumphal march to his father's court, now based in Mandu in what is now Madhya Pradesh. Upon his arrival in October, he was once again embraced by his father and promoted to the unprecedented rank of 30,000. During the ceremony, Khurram also received the title by which he is best known to history, Shah Jahan, which essentially means King of the World, a lofty title. Jahangir additionally awarded his son the province of Gujarat as his own fiefdom, and in early 1618, father and son went on a lengthy tour of the rich province. By summer, the emperor was finally ready to take the court back to Agra, but on the journey, both Jahangir and Shah Jahan caught the plague and were fortunate to survive. Not long after their recovery, Mumtaz Mahal gave birth to a third son, whom Jahangir gave the name Aurangzeb, or Adorner of the Throne. For several years, Shah Jahan's status as his father's favourite son and successor was unquestioned, but relations began to deteriorate in 1619. A comet in January was blamed for a series of misfortunes, including the death of Shah Jahan's mother, Jagat Gosain, and a new outbreak of plague. Unbeknownst to Shah Jahan, his father-in-law Asaf Khan had unsuccessfully plotted against him during the Deccan campaign by seeking to arrange the marriage of Prince Khusrau and Ladli Begum, one of Nur Jahan's daughters from her first marriage. This attempt came to nothing when the loyal Khusrau refused to abandon his wife, but Asaf Khan's machinations continued in the background as the chief steward enjoyed the emperor's confidence as one of his most trusted advisors. Despite the strained relationship between the two men, when news arrived that Malik Ambar had taken up arms with 60,000 cavalry, Shah Jahan was appointed to command the Mughal Expeditionary Force in January 1621. With over 80,000 cavalry and infantry at his disposal, Shah Jahan reached Burhanpur in April. There he divided his forces into 5 divisions, led by trusted officers, and launched an effective campaign to surround Malik Ambar's forces. After forcing Ambar to withdraw, the Mughals sacked his base at Khadaki and imposed punitive peace conditions on the princes and states of the Deccan. Although Jahangir was delighted by the military success, the gift of a single ruby paled in comparison to the lavish rewards that had followed Shah Jahan's previous victories. The 30-year-old Shah Jahan consequently sensed that his enemies at court were plotting against him during his absence. According to the accounts left by his supporters, Nur Jahan was anxious about her fate after Jahangir's death, and moved against Shah Jahan by turning to the 16-year-old Prince Sharia, Jahangir's youngest son. While Shah Jahan had been away on campaign, the teenager had been promoted to the rank of 8,000 and married Ladli Begum. As a result of all this, Shah Jahan recognized that the time had come to take action against his half-brothers. Shortly before his departure to the Deccan, Jahangir had agreed to transfer Prince Khusrau into Shah Jahan's custody, a move that may have been planned by Nur Jahan now that Khusrau was surplus to requirements. In February 1622, Shah Jahan arranged the killing of his eldest half-brother. Despite a half-hearted effort to give the impression that Khusrau had taken his own life, the murder was widely condemned throughout the empire. With Sharia in the ascendant, Shah Jahan's prospects were further diminished after Nur Jahan inherited the vast property of her deceased father Ghiyas Beg, enabling her to bribe influential courtiers to support her ambitions. While Shah Jahan was still at Burhanpur, the Shah of Persia took the opportunity to reassert his claim to Kandahar and marched on the city. Jahangir was shocked and urgently summoned Shah Jahan to march north to relieve the city. The latter began his march north, but soon stopped at Mandu in April. After considering the dynamics at court, he feared that hostilities with the Persians would undermine his efforts to deal with the threat from Prince Sharia. He therefore proceeded to ask for the governorship of the Punjab, an impertinent demand that infuriated Jahangir. When his request was refused, Shah Jahan sent an armed force against Sharia's fiefdom of Dholpur. Jahangir responded by promoting Sharia to the rank of 12,000, sacking Shah Jahan from his provincial governorships and appointing Sharia as the commander of the army for the Kandahar campaign. With the Mughal court in turmoil, the defenders of Kandahar had succumbed to the Persian forces in June 1622. Meanwhile, Shah Jahan marched against Agra, sacking the surrounding city but failing to capture the fortress. Jahangir dispatched an army under his henchman Mahabat Khan, nicknamed Master of Terror, which met Shah Jahan's army near Delhi in March 1623. While the Imperial vanguard defected to the rebels, Shah Jahan's vanguard commander was killed, and the rebel prince was compelled to withdraw via Ajmer and Mandu. The desperate Shah Jahan requested diplomatic and military aid from Shah Abbas and his former enemy Malik Ambar, all the while suffering further defeats on the field. However, he was given right of passage eastwards, giving him the opportunity to strike north and capture the eastern half of the Mughal Empire before turning west to confront the Imperial army commanded by Mahabat Khan and his brother Pervez. Hence did the Mughal Empire descend into full civil war in the early to mid-1620s over the issue of Shah Jahan's potential succession. After conquering Orissa in eastern India in late 1623, Shah Jahan moved north into Bengal and secured possession in April 1624. It is a sign of how vast the Mughal Empire was that the conflict was raging from Afghanistan in the north to the Deccan Plateau in the south, and from Pakistan in the west to Bengal in the east. During the summer, a string of provincial nobles sided with the rebel prince before Shah Jahan's forces clashed with his father's near Allahabad. During the ensuing clash, Shah Jahan's army was decisively defeated, and the rebel prince was fortunate to escape with his life after his horse was killed by an arrow. Shah Jahan was forced into a humiliating retreat, accompanied by his increasingly small entourage, in which his devoted wife Mumtaz Mahal remained. By early 1626, Shah Jahan was back in the Deccan, but failed to defeat the imperial forces. Finally, in March 1626, he agreed to submit to his father and begged for forgiveness. As part of the agreement, he was forced to give up custody of his sons Darashikoh and Aurangzeb to the imperial court. It seemed that nothing now remained in the way of Nur Jahan's ambitions for Sharia's succession. However, Prince Pervez's nominal command of the army that had put down Shah Jahan's rebellion elevated his prestige at court, while supporters of the late Prince Khusrau championed the cause of his young son Dawar Bakhsh Bulaki. Nur Jahan's efforts to move against Prince Pervez by demoting Mahabat Khan compelled the latter to launch a mutiny. In late March, Mahabat Khan launched a coup and took Jahangir, Sharia and Nur Jahan into captivity. Despite this success, Mahabat did not wish to see any harm come to the emperor. By October, the status quo had been restored, and Shah Jahan was once again able to begin building his support base. Nur Jahan's return to power strengthened Prince Shahriar's claims, particularly after Prince Pervez died of illness at Burhanpur. In the meantime, Shah Jahan had hoped to take advantage of Mahabat Khan's mutiny to restore his position, but his efforts to secure the support of the Hindu principalities of Rajasthan came to nothing, and he was forced to return south. Shah Jahan remained in ignominious exile in Ahmadnagar throughout 1627 as Jahangir's health declined. The emperor died in Kashmir on the 28th of October 1627 at the age of 58 on his way from Kabul to Lahore. He had clarified who he believed should succeed him, but Nur Jahan was in prime position to put her plans into place. At this moment, Shah Jahan received unexpected and unprompted aid from his father-in-law Asaf Khan, who had resented his removal from government after the Mahabat Khan affair, and the fact that he had been denied a portion of his late father's inheritance. Asaf Khan recognized that if he could carve a path for Shah Jahan to the throne, the latter would be greatly indebted to him. Thus, on the day of Jahangir's passing, Asaf Khan dispatched a message to Shah Jahan, informing him of Jahangir's death and summoning him to Agra. In the meantime, he intercepted Jahangir's funeral cortege and imprisoned his sister Nur Jahan, before hurriedly arranging the coronation of the 16-year-old Dawar Bakhsh Bilaki as the fifth Mughal emperor, claiming that this had been Jahangir's wish. At this time, Prince Shahriar had gone to Lahore to seek treatment for various ailments, but Nur Jahan sent word to him to seize the imperial treasury in the city and raise an army to contest the succession. In his efforts to avoid recruiting any officers with connections to Asaf Khan, Shahriar raised an inexperienced force of 15,000 men, which was crushed in battle by Asaf Khan's 10,000 veterans outside Lahore in mid-November 1627. The following day, Dawar Bakhsh's coronation as emperor was confirmed. The reign of the young emperor, given the additional title of Sher Shah or Tiger King, would be short-lived, and Asaf Khan was already preparing his demise. When Shah Jahan received news of his father's death, he began his progress towards Agra within days. He was escorted by an armed force led by Mahabat Khan, who had joined him in the south after his failed mutiny. On the way, Shah Jahan received the submission of provincial rulers who had only just acknowledged Dawar Bakhsh as emperor. Even before reaching Agra, Shah Jahan already began issuing imperial decrees and dismissing and appointing provincial governors. At the beginning of January, he sent instructions to Asaf Khan to kill Dawar Bakhsh. The bearer of the message was none other than Reza Ghulam Bahadur, the same man who had carried out Shah Jahan's instructions to kill Prince Khusrau 6 years earlier. As the harbinger of death for the Tiger King arrived at Lahore late in January 1628, the young emperor was imprisoned and Shah Jahan was proclaimed emperor in his place. A few days later, Dawar Bakhsh was beheaded alongside Prince Shahriar and a number of other rival princes. The same day, Shah Jahan entered Agra to a sumptuous reception, though the court astrologers advised him to wait 12 days to enter the fort. On the 14th of February 1628, the 36-year-old Shah Jahan was crowned emperor and received a host of additional titles to add to his name. Court poets and historians quickly set to work composing paeans of praise honoring the new emperor. Shah Jahan went on to reward his supporters and associates by promoting Asaf Khan to the honor of the 8,000 and confirming Mahabat Khan as commander-in-chief of his forces. Asaf Khan received yet greater honors when he arrived at Agra in March with the imperial princes Darashikoh, Shah Shuja and Aurangzeb, who rushed to embrace their parents. The emperor named his father-in-law chief minister and promoted him to 9,000. Despite the tumultuous manner in which he finally claimed the throne, the 30-year-old reign of Shah Jahan would mark an unprecedented era of stability and prosperity for the Mughal Empire. Having spent several years in rebellion against Jahangir, Shah Jahan saw no reason to keep Jahangir's appointees in place and embarked on a major overhaul of state administration. Shah Jahan's accession was also marked by a major shift in the empire's religious policy. Despite his fondness for the memory of his grandfather and his close friendships with Hindu rulers such as Karna Singh of Mewar, Shah Jahan departed from Akbar's policy of universal toleration and promoted Orthodox Islam. His new coinage featured the names of Allah and the 4 caliphs who succeeded the Prophet Muhammad. He banned the traditional practice of prostration and promoted Muslim holidays. 10 years into his reign, he would replace the zodiacal calendar with the Islamic calendar. In another departure from Central Asian tradition, and in recognition of the damage caused by internecine power struggles in the imperial family, Shah Jahan asserted the doctrine of male primogeniture and groomed his eldest son Dara Shikoh as his heir. Nevertheless, it was impossible for the court to abandon important traditional celebrations such as the Nowruz festival, a Persian celebration in late March marking the spring equinox. Shah Jahan and his family were at the center of every major court occasion, and the emperor was keen to signal an end to Nur Jahan's influence. Asaf Khan had taken his sister from Lahore to Agra, where she was incarcerated and given a modest allowance. Shah Jahan gave Mumtaz Mahal many of the powers that had been held by Nur Jahan. Although not as ambitious as her aunt, Mumtaz nevertheless played a key role in political decision-making. Not only was she regularly consulted by her husband, but she also issued edicts in her own name. Although Shah Jahan had come to the throne intent on enjoying life with his reunited family and to embark on major construction and infrastructure projects all over the empire, he had to face several military challenges early in his reign. In May 1628, the Uzbek state of Turan sought to take advantage of the Persian conquest of Kandahar by attacking Kabul. With the city under siege, Shah Jahan responded by dispatching a force of 20,000 men under the command of Mahabat Khan. Before these reinforcements arrived, Lashkar Khan, the new governor of Kabul, broke through the Uzbek siege lines and entered the city in triumph in September. Not long afterwards, Shah Jahan faced 2 major rebellions within his empire. The first, in the territory of Bundelkhand in central India, was suppressed during the winter of 1628 by 3 Mughal armies. The leaders of one of the 3 armies, Khan Jahan Lodi, the governor of the Deccan, soon launched his own rebellion with support from Ahmad Nagar. He had briefly served as commander-in-chief under Jahangir, while Mahabad Khan was out of favor and resented being appointed to his distant post in Burhanpur. The emperor responded quickly and sent a force of 50,000 men and horse to crush the rebellion. Shah Jahan followed closely behind, reaching Burhanpur in March 1630. The rebels resorted to scorched earth tactics to starve the invading Mughal army by depriving them of any resources, compelling Mughal generals to forcibly requisition food supplies. As the year dragged on, Shah Jahan decided to appoint his father-in-law Asaf Khan as commander-in-chief of the southern force. This galvanized the incumbent commander Azam Khan into action, and a series of relentless attacks forced Khan Jahan to take flight. After another devastating defeat in January 1631, the rebel fled north and was ambushed and killed near Allahabad in early February. All that remained was for Asaf Khan to punish the remaining Deccan forces who had sided with the rebel. No sooner had peace been restored to the empire when Shah Jahan suffered a bitter personal tragedy that led to the construction of one of the most magnificent architectural wonders of the world, a monument to Shah Jahan's love and devotion to his beloved wife. The court was still in Burhanpur in June 1631, when the 40-year-old Mumtaz Mahal went into labour. She was just 7 months into her pregnancy. The emperor was playing chess with his eldest surviving daughter, Jahanara, when the latter was urgently summoned to her mother's bedside. She returned to report that the baby was refusing to emerge and that the queen's life was at risk after losing a lot of blood. As the emperor and his daughter hurried to Mumtaz's bed, they joined the doctors and midwives who frantically offered various medicines to alleviate her condition, while more religiously inclined courtiers prayed for divine intervention. Emperor Shah Jahan, the arbiter of life and death for millions of subjects, remained powerless as streams of tears poured down his face. A vivid account of Mumtaz Mahal's dying moments claims that the queen made 2 final requests. Firstly, for Shah Jahan not to have any more children with other women in the interests of a stable succession. And secondly, to build her, quote, such a mausoleum that the like of it may not be seen anywhere else in the world. After finally giving birth to a short-lived daughter, Gauhar Ara, the exhausted queen breathed her last. The emperor and his court were paralyzed by Mumtaz Mahal's death. In accordance with Islamic law, the late queen was interred on the day of her death at a site on the grounds of an old imperial hunting lodge at Zainabad, within sight of the Burhanpur citadel. Legend has it that the traumatic loss caused Shah Jahan's beard to turn white almost overnight, and the emperor gave up music and singing for 2 years. As he considered returning to Agra, Shah Jahan could not bear the thought of being so far removed from the grave of his beloved. Whatever the truth of Mumtaz's dying requests, Shah Jahan now resolved to build her a magnificent tomb in the capital close to Agra Fort. After consultation with architects and religious officials in the summer of 1631, a site was chosen to the east of Agra Fort on a bend of the Yamuna River. In order to build the mausoleum, the emperor had to pay substantial compensation to the influential courtiers who had magnificent mansions on the site. At every stage, Shah Jahan closely supervised the architectural plans presented to him in order to build the perfect monument to his beloved wife. In the meantime, a temporary tomb was erected for the late queen, whose body was exhumed and transported to Agra by her second son, Shah Shuja. The design envisaged a large raised terrace on the southern bank of the Yamuna, with a mausoleum at the center, a mosque to the west, and a guest house to the east. To the south was a large square garden, a monumental gate with large forecourt beyond. While the ancillary buildings were architectural marvels in their own right, the main tomb building was the centerpiece of the 42-acre complex. In designing the mausoleum, Shah Jahan and his architects introduced major stylistic innovations while taking inspiration from Mughal, Islamic and Indian traditions. Inspired by Hindu tradition, the tomb was placed at the northern end of the complex, rather than at its center. The architects adapted the traditional square Mughal tombs by cutting off the corners to create an irregular octagon, pushing the minarets outwards to stand independently at the corners of the carefully proportioned main plinth. Large monumental porches on 4 sides were decorated with flower motifs and Islamic calligraphy, with quotes from the Quran. The structure was crowned with a large circular central dome and 4 smaller octagonal domes. The most important innovation was to clad the structure in white marble from Rajasthan, allowing the structure to shimmer against the waters of the river Yamuna when viewed from the opposite bank. Construction work on the tomb complex took more than a decade, and by the 2nd anniversary of the Queen's death in the summer of 1633, only the terrace and the marble plinth had been constructed. Crucially, the Queen's body could now be removed from her temporary tomb and placed into her burial chamber inside the marble platform. Indian folklore tells of Shah Jahan inspecting the construction site disguised as an old man, asking 3 stonecutters what they were doing. The emperor was impressed by the fact that all 3 men were irritated and wanted to get on with their work. Shah Jahan was particularly delighted by the 3rd man's answer. He said, "I am building the Taj Mahal, old man, and if I keep answering idle questions, I shall never be able to complete the most beautiful monument on earth." The structure was officially completed in 1643 for the 12th anniversary of the Queen's death. Opposite the tomb on the north bank of the Yamuna, Shah Jahan built a viewing platform and laid out gardens mirroring those of the tomb complex. The construction project had cost 5 million rupees in total, amounting to around 3% of the vast Mughal Empire's annual revenues. The buildings within the complex also required regular maintenance, which was supported by the rent from a bazaar complex south of the main gate. One of the first European travellers to describe the completed tomb was the Frenchman François Bernier, who wrote in 1659, "I decidedly think that this monument deserves much more to be numbered among the wonders of the world than the pyramids of Egypt." Bernier's account was the first to use the name Taj Mahal, which referred to the late queen rather than the mausoleum. This suggests that the common name for the mausoleum may have been a corrupted form of the name Mumtaz Mahal. Despite the magnificence of the monument and Shah Jahan's devotion to his late queen, the emperor made few visits to the mausoleum after its completion. During the construction of the Taj Mahal, the emperor spent considerable time in Agra, where he dealt with government business, provided gifts to religious and social institutions, and engaged in philosophical and literary debates with the great minds of the day. It was a comparatively peaceful time in the history of the Mughal Empire. In addition to his generous patronage of schools and hospitals, Shah Jahan spent lavishly on an extensive building program, upgrading the forts at Agra, Lahore, Kabul, and Burhanpur. In addition to the Taj Mahal, major architectural achievements of Shah Jahan's reign include the Friday Mosque near Agra Fort, sponsored by his daughter Jahanara, who fulfilled many of the court functions previously carried out by her late mother. One of the greatest artistic achievements of the age was a magnificent new golden throne adorned with 9 million rupees worth of gems from the royal treasury. The dazzling masterpiece, later named the Peacock Throne after the 2 peacocks that adorned it, had been commissioned at the beginning of Shah Jahan's reign, but was not completed until March 1635, after 7 years of painstaking work. Under the canopy of his bejeweled throne, Shah Jahan presented himself as the great ruler of a unified and peaceful Mughal Empire. While the Peacock Throne had cost twice as much as the Taj Mahal, the architectural project that had the greatest impact on the empire was the construction of a new capital at Delhi, upriver from Agra. Although the old palaces of the Delhi Sultanate lay in ruins, it remained a major crossroads for Mughal emperors journeying to and from the northwestern provinces. Construction work on a new city named Shahjahanabad after the emperor began in April 1639. By 1648, an expansive fort complex on the banks of the Yamuna known as the Red Fort was completed. In addition to broad avenues, expansive squares, and thronging bazaars, the city boasted several mosques, including the large Jahannuma Masjid, or world-reflecting mosque, built at the emperor's personal expense. Shah Jahan's efforts to project the wealth and power of the Mughal state extended to military campaigns against external enemies. The 3 Deccan states remained a constant source of irritation, and when the elderly Mahabat Khan died in late 1634, Shah Jahan personally took command of the southern army and resolved to subjugate the 3 states of Ahmadnagar, Bijapur, and Golconda. While Golconda quickly capitulated, Bijapur resisted for a number of years before signing a peace treaty in May 1636. After these successes, the emperor appointed his 18-year-old son Aurangzeb as governor of the Deccan. With the south secure, Shah Jahan turned his attention to the northwest. He was desperate to recapture Kandahar, and in 1636 he sent an envoy to Persia to gather intelligence about its military capabilities. 2 years later, Kandahar fell into Shah Jahan's lap without bloodshed when its veteran governor defected to the Mughals after complaining of ill treatment by the late Shah Abbas's son and successor Shah Safi. Anticipating Persian efforts to recapture the city, Shah Jahan dispatched reinforcements to Kandahar. The build-up of Mughal forces on the northwestern frontier encouraged Shah Jahan to launch campaigns to reconquer some of his family's ancestral lands in Central Asia from the days of the Timurid Empire of Tamerlane. Although the emperor's youngest son, Murad Bakhsh, captured the ancient city of Balkh in 1646, he prematurely ended the campaign and returned to Kabul, enabling the ruler of Balkh to reoccupy the city. At this juncture, Shah Jahan turned to Aurangzeb, the most effective military leader among his sons. Aurangzeb had performed well during his 8-year governorship of the Deccan, but his administrative and military abilities on the southern frontier inspired the jealousy of Crown Prince Dara Shikoh, who sought to prevent Aurangzeb from receiving the necessary supplies to carry out his duties. This led Aurangzeb to resign from the governorship in 1644 upon his return to Agra, and he languished in some disgrace until his sister Jahanara spoke up in his favour and secured him the governorship of Gujarat. Aurangzeb enjoyed some modest successes after taking command of the northern armies in 1647. But Mughal fortunes were once again undermined by the rivalry between the imperial princes. In the midst of Mughal infighting, the Persians managed to recapture Kandahar in February 1649. After Aurangzeb failed to recapture the city, Shah Jahan appointed Dara Shikoh to lead 60,000 infantry and 40,000 cavalry to retake Kandahar. The Crown Prince, a religious scholar of some repute, who promoted a liberal version of Islam, was completely out of his depth on campaign and led 3 unsuccessful assaults against the fortress. By 1653, Shah Jahan abandoned his Central Asian campaigns after making only modest territorial gains. More importantly, the campaign intensified the power struggle between Dara Shikoh and Aurangzeb, who returned to the governorship of the Deccan in January 1653. The prince discovered that the territory had been mismanaged during his absence and quickly moved to restore its economic fortunes. From his new capital in Shahjahanabad, the emperor was concerned about the prospect of Aurangzeb building up a rival power base and began to make increased financial demands on the Deccan. In response to these financial pressures, Aurangzeb targeted the states of Bijapur and Golconda, ignoring existing treaty obligations. By January 1656, a Mughal army under Aurangzeb's son Muhammad Sultan captured Bagnagar, present-day Hyderabad, and moved to besiege Golconda Fort. However, Aurangzeb soon received instructions from court to withdraw from Golconda and restore its sultan. When Aurangzeb disregarded his father's calls for moderation by waging a brutal campaign, Shah Jahan recognized that his ambitious son had to be cut down to size. Before Shah Jahan had the opportunity of dismissing Aurangzeb from the Deccan, he fell gravely ill in September 1657. His slow recovery and absence from court inspired rumors that he had died, which quickly reached his 3 younger sons, Shah Shuja in Bengal, Aurangzeb in the Deccan, and Murad Bakhsh in Gujarat. Although the 3 had worked together to counter the influence of their eldest brother, Dara Shikoh, the tripartite alliance was broken by Shah Shuja, who declared himself emperor in November 1657. A few weeks later, Murad Bakhsh, also declared himself emperor in Ahmedabad. While Aurangzeb bided his time by offering an alliance to his youngest brother, Shah Jahan sought to reassert control as he recovered his health by delegating the suppression of the rebellious princes to Dara Shikoh. The emperor then chose to move the court to the old capital of Agra to continue his recovery. Dara Shikoh scored a major success in February 1658 when his generals defeated Shah Shuja, but a futile pursuit of the renegade prince compelled Dara to raise a second army largely made up of Hindu Rajput militias to confront Aurangzeb and Murad. The Rajputs were crushed by Aurangzeb in April 1658, and in June, Dara Shikoh led another hastily assembled army into battle at Samugar to the west of Agra. Although both armies fought valiantly and the struggle lasted for several hours, the Crown Prince's ignorance of military affairs and the treachery of subordinates resulted in his defeat. Although he continued to recognize Murad's claims to the throne, Aurangzeb was by now the de facto emperor. Within a few days, he gave instructions for his father to be confined to the harem quarters at the Agra Fort. As he prepared for a final confrontation with Dara Shikoh, Aurangzeb put a swift end to the fiction of Emperor Murad and arranged for his imprisonment and later execution. He then made his way north to Shahjahanabad and mounted the peacock throne on the 31st of July 1658, marking an end to Shah Jahan's 30-year reign. Among the new names adopted by the new emperor was Alamgir, Caesar of the world. With support rapidly ebbing away from him, Dara Shikoh remained on the run until the late summer of 1659, when he was captured and brought to Shahjahanabad, where he was found guilty of apostasy and executed. From his captivity in Agra, the 67-year-old Shah Jahan received the news of his favorite son's demise from his gleeful captors. Cut off from all correspondence, the deposed emperor received occasional letters from Aurangzeb justifying his conduct and reminding his father of the fate of Princes Khusrau and Shahryar. Shah Jahan lived for another 7 years under the care of the devoted Jahanara and other palace ladies. From a tower in the women's quarters, Shah Jahan could look over the Yamuna at the magnificent mausoleum that he had built for Mumtaz Mahal, who left the mortal world 3 decades earlier. His earthly suffering came to an end on the 22nd of January 1666 at the age of 74. Aurangzeb refused Jahanara's request for a grand funeral procession, and Shah Jahan's body was discreetly taken along the Yamuna to the Taj Mahal, where it was laid to rest beside the remains of his beloved Mumtaz Mahal. As he languished in captivity during his final years, Shah Jahan would have had the opportunity to reflect on his life and legacy. A favorite of his grandfather Akbar, Prince Khurram's military successes in Mewar and the Deccan during his father's reign established him as Jahangir's preferred successor. The intrigues of Nur Jahan in the 1620s provoked Shah Jahan into rebellion. He remained in the political wilderness upon his father's death, when he was catapulted to the throne by the unexpected intervention of his father-in-law Asaf Khan. Having become emperor by eliminating 2 brothers and a nephew, Shah Jahan's hopes of domestic tranquility were bitterly shattered by the death of Mumtaz Mahal 3 years into his reign. He expressed his grief by building one of the most magnificent tombs the world has ever seen, one of several architectural wonders that adorned the Mughal Empire during Shah Jahan's reign. He was also responsible for the construction of the Red Fort and other immense Mughal buildings. He tried to bring peace to the Mughal Empire, yet ultimately he failed in this latter endeavor as fractious border rulers and internal family squabbles led to wars over time. Shah Jahan's military successes in the Deccan did not compensate for the permanent loss of Kandahar, while his efforts to secure the succession for his eldest son, Dara Shikoh, aroused the jealousy of his younger sons and precipitated a bitter power struggle that led to his deposition and imprisonment at the hands of Aurangzeb. Though a capable ruler, he spent his last years effectively deposed and in captivity. His construction projects, though, mark him as one of the Mughal Empire's greatest rulers. What do you think of Shah Jahan? Should he be celebrated as a patron of arts and culture, who gave India and the world some of the finest architectural monuments known to history, most famously the Taj Mahal and the Red Fort? Or was he a cruel ruler who killed his relatives to gain the throne, undermined his empire's military capacity in a misguided quest for personal glory, and sealed his own fate by mishandling the succession? Please let us know in the comment section, and in the meantime, thank you very much for watching.